Yak Gadget, made in America, based outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Yak Gadget offers all kinds of storage accessories, quick mount motor mounts, anchor systems, track mounted accessories, even paddles. Go to yakgadget.com and get your kayak decked out for your next trip out on the water.
The 153 Bait Company, based in Troy, Ohio, make everything from plastics to custom painted hard baits. Hook 'em hard and hook 'em often. All of our baits are made to order and all of our hard baits are hand painted to order. So go to the153anglers.com to place your order today.
To hell and back is in the job description. Being roughed up, scuffed up, run over, kicked, thrown, dropped, dunked, and done the unthinkable is a duty we've embraced for more than 40 years. Through superior engineering and constant innovation, only Pelican has conquered the chaos a life of ambition can dish out. And we've done it to empower you.
Welcome to The Reel Down on Paddle and Fin with your hosts, Dan Perry and Jimmy Skinner, where we talk about everything tournament kayak fishing. Here we go. Hey everybody, welcome back to The Reel Down on Paddle and Fin. If you're watching this right now, well, you're not listening to us yet because this is live and not the podcast, but with me instead, Jimmy tonight. Jimmy, he's not feeling real well, so we have Sean Lavery from the Noob Show, man. Welcome.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. I am super jealous of your guys' intro music. I love that song, and it's timed perfectly.
I did not edit that. I can't take any credit. Whoever did a great job because I actually wanted it a little bit different, but it worked. That sounded even better. So I forget. It was either Brad or Brian. One of them did that. I appreciate you saying that. But yeah, I picked the song, but they definitely edited it and that made it because I had picked like a whole nother section of the song. So, but yeah, a little background there. But yeah, tonight we're going to have a good night. The big Hobie on Lake Dardanelle. Wish I could have fished that one, but I mean, it was a great tournament last year where Drew Gregory won, and this year we have new winners, and yeah, happy to have him on the show. We did have it planned to also have Kevin Workman on, but he's in a snowstorm in northern Missouri, so he's not going to be able to make it on tonight. So we just have first and second. So Kevin, maybe we'll be able to have him on another time before too long. But without further ado, let's bring him on. We have Nick Chabarria. Close.
No, you had it. You had it right there.
There we go. And Bryan Howell.
What's up?
Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Yep. So we have first and second place from the Hobie on Dardanelle. And yeah, since we haven't had either one of y'all on the show before, we'll start with you, Brian. Just kind of give us your background, what you do, and yeah, who you are and how you got into kayak fishing.
So my name is Bryan Howell, and I've been kayak fishing only for about 2.5 years. I used to live in Los Angeles, California. I did a lot of float tube fishing back then, but that's now
big out there. Like float tube hasn't like conquered the rest of the country like it has out in California.
Yeah. Like most people don't really know, like they kind of know what a float tube is, but they don't, they've never fished out of it or anything like that.
No.
So once I moved to Texas, about 2.5 years ago, that's when I picked up kayak fishing because nobody float tubes here. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of sketchy with the gators, the snakes, everything, stumps in the water. You don't want to pop your float tube or something. So I had to get a kayak, started kayak fishing tournaments after that. Shortly after, and yeah, that's about it, I guess.
What do you do for a living, or whenever you're not kayak fishing?
So I basically sell stuff online. I have like a little online retail business, and so I get to fish kind of whenever I want, somewhat, So that's nice.
Sounds like
what kind of stuff? Yeah, what kind of stuff do you sell, if you don't mind me asking?
It's mainly like clothing and sneakers and stuff like that. It's reselling.
Okay, cool.
On eBay and other websites like that.
Yeah, a guy, like, as another story is way off topic, but a guy who used to work for me, at my current job, he did so well on selling on eBay and all that he was making more money than what he was with our job just doing it part time. That there wasn't any reason for him to work where we work anymore. He did really, really well for himself just reselling on eBay. It's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah. Man, I like that hustle, man. Whenever he was doing that, I was like, man, I might get in on that game because he had the whole background. Like you got to have a good setup, I guess, if you're making a living doing it.
Yeah, I've kind of just been kind of hustling like that online since I was probably 13 years old, probably younger than that. I don't know. Since I was a kid, I've just been selling stuff, whether it's stuff in like video games or whatever, or physical items, anything when I was growing up.
Do you just sell stuff that that you're most like whenever you're buying and selling? I guess you kind of have a niche of if it's sneakers, video games.
Yeah,
you just gotta buy stuff that or if you just see a good deal on something, you sell it. It doesn't matter.
Well, it's basically just stuff like you gotta know. Half of it's just knowing what to buy and when to buy it and everything. Because otherwise, I don't know, you might buy something. I mean, you don't always make money on everything you sell. Sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy this and it's gonna resell for so much, and then you end up losing like $50 on it or something. You're like, oh, that wasn't too great, whatever.
Well, that's a game, I guess. But yeah, if y'all have any questions, hit up Bryan afterwards. He'll I'm sure maybe he has like a franchise opportunity in your area, so you can sell stuff on eBay. But all right, so next up we have Nick. Tell us about yourself, man.
Yeah, hey, I'm Nick Chabarria. I'm originally from the Chicago area. Went to school in Missouri, and then got a job and lived in Missouri for a few years in Southeast Missouri. Went down to Louisiana for work in New Orleans, and now I'm back in Missouri in St. Louis. I moved back last year, so I've had a chance to fish quite a few different regions, and I think it all kind of comes into play. It's good experience for all of it.
So now that you live down in New Orleans, do you like the inshore stuff more, or do you like the bass more?
You know what? It was interesting because I was in the city, and of course down there you're right by all the marsh and red fishing and specks, and for the first year I was down there, that's about all I did. I didn't even go after bass for that first year just because it was so new, and of course catching those redfish shallow in a kayak is something else. But then after about a year it kind of wore off, and I was like, man, I really miss bass fishing. And right around that time, the club that I'm representing here with my hat, Bam Bass, and they started up in kind of south central Louisiana, doing bass tournaments, bass kayak tournaments. So it was a good time for that, and got involved in that. And that was 2018. So I've been fishing bass tournaments for about 3 years now.
It's kind of tough. Like bass fishing's kind of tough down, not all of Louisiana, but a lot of it. Because I mean, them Cajuns, they eat. I mean, if they put a fish in the boat, it ain't coming out the boat. It's going home.
If it swims, it fries. That's what they say down there. So yeah, and I was surprised because I didn't know much about Louisiana fishing before I got down there. Obviously, Toledo Bend and some of the lakes up north, and just these giants getting caught out there. And, so when I got down there, I kind of realized that the marsh bass, they don't grow as big. Just there's so much going after them, and not just guys, but of course, gators and other things like that. So, I was kind of surprised. It was tough to find some big fish down in the south area, but definitely getting, the central lakes and a little bit farther up, it holds them pretty good, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. But all right. Yeah. So, well, first of all, congratulations on your tournament. Huge tournament. I mean, how many people were there? I did not write that down. 130?
124, I think.
24, yeah, was the final.
Yeah. Another great tournament. I mean, Hobie, it's hard to argue that they're not the best, if not one of the two best tournament series around. Do y'all usually fish a lot of Hobies?
I do.
Yeah.
I don't know about Nick, but I generally fish a couple a year.
Nice.
Yeah, this was my second one. I fished Kentucky Lake Barkley last year in June, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh.
It was tough, man. It did not go well.
That's a tough lake for sure.
Yeah.
But you made up for it this time, man, for sure.
Yeah, it's still kind of sinking in just, what this weekend was. And of course, big congrats to Bryan. And, we were battling out there up until the last 10 minutes. And it's just kind of crazy. Like, this is my second turn, second BOS. I follow a lot of these guys, of course, just, around their travels and when they're fishing and YouTube and all that. And, so to be able to compete with them and in a great tournament when the fish were coming out, everybody, seemed to be catching them pretty good. And it's just real special and, feel real fortunate that it worked out the way it did.
Cool. Well, I'll go over the numbers here. Day one, you had Mike Hauser in first, 89 inches, Kevin Workman in second with 89, and then Brian Delahunty in third with 89. So three-way tie for first place. Nick, you were in fourth with 88 3/4, so just a quarter of an inch behind. And Bryan, you were way down in 27th, which way down in 27th, but I mean you were only 6 inches off the lead. So I mean,
something like that.
Yeah, you had to have known with 82 3/4. I mean, you were still in the hunt. I mean, especially a lake like Dardanelle where there are big fish there.
Yeah, I knew. I didn't think I would even have a shot at all at winning. Like when I ended up being in first on the leaderboard for a while before it went down, I was like, okay, this is crazy, because I was just shooting for a check, honestly.
Yeah.
I thought that was doable, but I didn't think winning was doable at all, or getting a top 3 or anything, not even a top 5. I thought I was gonna get one of the lower checks.
No. And then day two, Bryan, you were in first, big bag of a tournament with 92 1/4. Johnny Maddox in second with 91 1/2. Russ Snyder's can't feel good seeing that guy up there. 88 1/4. Nick, you were in fifth with 86 1/2, and Kevin, he was in seventh with 85 3/4. And then total for the tournament, Nick ended up pulling it out with 175 1/4. Bryan, quarter inch behind with 175. Kevin, 174 3/4. Brian Delahunty, he was in fourth. He lives in this area now. I wish he didn't move down here. He's such a good angler. 174 1/2, and then Dwayne Beatty in fifth with 172 1/2. So, yeah, I mean, good weights, good tournament. So I guess we'll kind of start with the lake for people that haven't been there. Do one of y'all kind of want to give us a rundown of Dardanelle and what it looks like and what the fishing's like there?
Bryan probably fished a little bit more than I did this weekend, so
I didn't, honestly. I got less practice than you, I think.
No kidding.
Because I didn't even drive in until I got there like 10 a.m. on Friday, and I fished until 4, and that was it. Like, I didn't even get the morning bite or anything.
All right, so I had,
but I have been there once
hours
before.
Yeah.
He had some hot eBay stuff he had to ship out before he came to town.
Yeah, I this is my first time there, but obviously, just kind of know it kind of lends itself to shallow water fishing. Before going out, of course, watched all the videos I could and try to gather any information I could. And and honestly, it kind of reminded me the way it was set up in the area I want to fish, and it reminded me of the marsh a little bit. You had those bulrush and kind of those muddy banks that didn't look like much, and dropping water was almost kind of fishing like a falling tide. And it was kind of surprising me actually how it looked, but once kind of dialed in, it was they were patterned pretty good.
And what stage were they in? Were they all still pre-spawn there, or
mine were all pre-spawn, like kind of staging? I don't know about Bryan.
Yeah, that's kind of how it was. Like, I found one area maybe where they were on beds. I didn't fish that area, but
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, well, I didn't see any bloody tails or anything like that either.
Yeah.
Well, all right, cool. We had like an early wave, and then they've been pushed back ever since. So I think now we're kind of. I haven't been fishing that much lately, family stuff, but I think we're kind of in all 3 stages right now here in Alabama. So I didn't know with Arkansas being a little bit further north if they were, still pre, but sounds like it. All right, so yeah, let's start with practice. So Bryan, your very short day of practice, and tell us how that went. I mean, was it just like you went out there, boom, this is the spot, I'm out, I'll see you tomorrow?
Kind of. But first, I hit up a spot that I fished at last year, and last year I did really well there on day 1, and I kind of got spun out on day 2. So I was like, this area I know has fish, but that was a different time of year. So I was like, I'll just check it out because I liked it. So I went there and kind of fished around. I think I had like one small one that I wasn't bed fishing, but I was chucking around, and I just hooked like a 12-incher, and I was like, I'm pretty sure it was on a bed. It looked like it with like the area was everything where there were beds, but I wasn't really feeling the area. So I was like, okay, screw this. I'm going to go pedal back to the ramp and then drive 45 minutes to the other side of the lake. So I went to the other side of the lake, put in there. I had maybe an hour or so there, hour and a half, something like that, just pedaling around, throwing around. I had like 2 good bites, I think, real quick right off the bat. I moved to a little bit, like maybe half mile from that, and I caught like a 17 on accident. I wasn't trying to hook anything really, but I hooked a 17, and then I had like one more bite, and I was like, okay, 4 bites in 1 hour or so here. I don't have anything else. I'm just going to go with this, and if I really do struggle or something, I can just take out and go down to Illinois Bayou or something like that and just grind out the rest of the day. That was my backup plan. And that's all I really was able to do with my half day of practice.
Okay. Well, I mean, to catch some fish when you practice, they can go out there and skunk. Seems like the fishing was pretty good, like kind of overall for Dardanelle. It was a good weekend to be there.
Yeah, I mean, people said that practice was really good. Like everyone was smashing them in practice. Then tournament day came around and they dropped the water and all that stuff, and it kind of screwed it up. But I mean, obviously some guys were still catching them.
Yeah. Just some other suck for other guys.
Some people were like, "Oh, this sucked" and all this stuff. My fish are gone. Like the fish that I found those areas kind of in practice, they were still there, but most of the areas, some of the areas, the water dropped kind of too much where they couldn't really even be there anymore. Or they didn't feel comfortable there anymore. But for the most part, I felt like they were there. They just kind of had a lockjaw, and they just had to be hit in the head basically for them to get the bite.
So how much did they drop the water tournament at?
I don't know. I'd say maybe a foot. I don't know. What would you say?
I think more than that too.
More
maybe
than a foot?
like,
maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Foot and a half, something like that. It was quite a bit.
I tried to look at the gauge, and that was kind of surprising to me. But we were probably kind of on the similar deal that, I was at first I was worried about the water dropping, but it almost made it more predictable about where they would be. So
yeah, kind of.
So it helped in that sense. But yeah, I know a lot of guys I think were flipping some of the bull rush where they were pushed up, and then when the water dropped out, it was just mud at that point.
Yeah.
So
all right, Nick, how about your practice, man?
Yeah, not too far off from Bryan's. I got in on late Thursday night. Got on the water about 6:30 on Friday, and really only fished for about 3 hours total. I did a lot of, of course, checking out the maps and Navionics, before going last week, and found some areas that I thought might hold them. I kind of thought I was keyed in at least on some of the fish up here in Missouri, and not too much farther south than where I'm at. So I was kind of hoping they were kind of doing the same thing. And so the first spot, the spot that I wound up fishing all weekend was the first spot I launched. And I was fishing for about an hour and had probably a 19 or 20 come up and eat my bait, and shook that off. Got to watch it eat, which that's always a good sign when they're coming out like that. And then had a couple bites and wound up actually landing a 17 as well. I kind of didn't want to, but I just wanted to get my hands on at least one just to see what they were doing and just know that they were there. So that was pretty much it. I had that 17 and I was like, this is probably going to be it. I went and launched in 2 other spots. Only fished there for about an hour and a half combined, and just wasn't what I was hoping it would be. So yeah, for really no other reason than that was what looked good, and that was all I had in practice. That's where I went on Saturday and held up for Saturday and Sunday for me, which I was fortunate.
So both of you guys think you are confident going into day one?
I was, going in, it was, I knew the fish were in the area. I had a couple big ones, and Just kind of knew where they were at, but wasn't really sure what they were doing. So just kind of went in and decided, I was going to fish what looked good, and just kind of pieced the puzzle together as I went on Saturday. And, that's kind of how it shook out. I had to figure them out a little bit. It took, half the morning to do it, but once I did, it held up.
Yeah, I was kind of confident. Like I was confident that I could get a limit at least. I didn't really know if there was any big fish there or anything. I just thought, hey, I can grind a limit out here, and if I have to, I'll move somewhere else.
What kind of kayaks are y'all in?
Well, I have a PA 14 360.
Nice.
I'm fishing out of a new canoe Flint first season with it.
Okay, cool. So you were paddling, man. That's
Yeah, I was paddling, kind of what I've always fished out of, and I enjoyed it. I mapped it out today though, and I covered probably about 15 miles between the 2 days, so it was a good bit of paddling, and kind of the wind kicked up on Sunday, so I'm feeling it in the arms today, but it helps, man. Like I said, I don't know about Bryan, but I couldn't get shallow enough for these fish. I was probably sitting about 2 feet, 1.5 feet of water, casting into 6 inches. And, it kind of paid off. I know a couple of guys had issues with some of their drives, and a buddy of mine broke his on a stump. So, with the water coming down, I think it helped me this weekend.
Yeah, I believe in that. That Flint, I used to have one. That's a super maneuverable, fun. It's such a fun kayak. Like if you're just looking for like a throw and go or something. But yeah, Flint. That's a great kayak.
Yeah, I like to fish a lot of the kind of the small Ozark rivers and Ozark streams up here in Missouri. So it's great for doing that, and also getting on some of the bigger water. Has no issues.
There you go. All right, so I guess we'll go to day one. We'll start with you, Nick. How'd it go?
Yeah, like I said, it just same way. I felt confident I can get a limit, and I knew there were at least a couple good ones in there. So I was just going to go after it and just go fish what looked good. About 7 o'clock. First cast was 6:15. About 7 o'clock, threw up into some of the bull rush and stuck at 20. So first fish of the day. That was that kind of got the juices flowing, and really kind of set the stage. But at that point, I think that was still kind of on some of that flipping stuff that a lot of the guys were fishing pre-fish. There was some water holding in that area. So but as I kind of paddled around, I saw the water came down, and a lot of like I said, a lot of it was just mud at that point up on the bank. So that kind of had me confused for a little bit, and wound up just throwing up super shallow and watch the fish come out and wake after my bait. And at that point, I was like, all right, well, this might be the deal. So right after that, caught another one up super shallow, and then it was kind of on from there. So, without like fishing with electronics or anything too, it kind of developed a system to see where I need to fish. They seemed to be real shallow, but closer, deeper water had to be pretty close by. So, when I was paddling, I would stick my paddle like into the water about like right there as far as I could reach. And if I couldn't touch bottom, I knew I was in pretty good area, and I would cast shallow, and that actually kind of held up, just trying to figure them out that way.
That's awesome. Where were you throwing? You just flipping them?
Yeah, no, I was throwing the chatterbait. I was throwing them all weekend. On a Saturday, I caught the 20 and pretty much all my fish on this 3/8 ounce black and blue with a Z-Craw trailer, Z-Craw Junior. And then Sunday, when the water kind of dirtied up, and just to give them a little different presentation, I switched to the 1/2 ounce green pumpkin with the full size Z-Craw to help it stay up, and that was it all weekend. That was the deal for me.
Why the Z-Craw? Do you have a certain reason why you like that trailer?
Yeah, well, certainly, when I'm fishing that shallow, I find that it helps keep the bait up in the water column, as opposed to like a fluke or a swim bait. It also, the water was pretty stained, so it moves a ton of water when it's coming through. So kind of a twofold deal. And it's something that I fished before, especially down in Louisiana. And like I said, it kind of seemed like that's how they were relating almost. It was like the marsh bass wood. So that was kind of the thought process there.
There we go. All right, Bryan, how about you, man?
All right, so day one, first thing I noticed when I was launching, I looked down at rocks that were on like right near the bank, and I noticed they were out of the water. And yesterday, or well, the day before the tournament, I noticed that those rocks I was stepping on. So I was like, okay, it dropped at least a few inches. I knew kind of that it was falling, and then I put in and pedaled across, fished that area where I hooked that 17, didn't have anything, kind of moved around a little bit, moved up a little bit shallower than I had been fishing the day before, and hooked one or two decent ones, I think. And then pedaled to a different little spot I had, and again noticed that the water was lower because my fins were now hitting the ground when I was pedaling around. Like, I was thinking in my head, like, I don't remember it being this shallow. Like, I could cleanly pedal across this whole thing. So I had to like flutter my Hobie Mirage Drive fins just right across that stuff to fish it. And I didn't get any more bites out of that area. Honestly, I think the whole tournament I didn't have a single bite. So I kind of moved around a little bit more, just started pounding all those areas, just working it real thoroughly, just rotating them every once in a while. Just kept grinding and grinding and grinding. I mean, it felt like it just made me almost hate fishing. Like, I was like, man, this is such a grind. I hate tournaments like this. This isn't enjoyable. Like, I just was not having a good day, honestly. So I was able to just grind out a couple more bites, and I wanted to go punch these mats that I found, and I thought they had good water under them. And then I go back there tournament day, thinking there's probably not as much water, but it should be okay. And I start punching them. I'm like, man, there's like barely anything under these mats. Like, I was just wasting my time. So I kind of just moved around, back around this point, and then back into this backwater area where it's just a ton of pads. It's all maybe 3 foot of water or less back there. And it looked good. It looked really good. But I was seeing a lot of bass boats back there pretty much all day. So I was thinking maybe they're just getting pounded on all day long. But I just still fished it anyway just because it looked so good. I hadn't been there in practice since I didn't have time to check it out. It was an area I wanted to check, but I wasn't able to because I ran out of time. And I was just fishing along like, man, how am I not getting bit? This looks so good. The water was nice and clean too because it didn't have any creeks flowing into it or anything at all flowing into it. And then finally, I think I had maybe 30 seconds to go in the tournament at that point, and I was able to cull like a 14 with like a 17 something, and that really helped me out a ton because it made me move from like 79, like high 70 inches up to 82 and whatever I had. And it kind of clued me in like, okay, there are more fish here. Like, maybe I should hit it up tomorrow and see if this is a little bit better.
And Chris asked, were there grass flats or lily pad stems? He's never been there before.
Well, there's not really any big, like, there's not really submerged grass or anything like that either time I've been. There's a lot of water willow. And right now, I think the freeze, like the whole ice thing and everything we had down here kind of killed most of the water willow. So it's just basically dead water willow all along the bank. And then there's good lily pads where I was fishing. That's mainly what I caught out of. I caught some out of that dead water willow, but a lot of them came out of the nice, fresh green lily pads.
And what baits were you throwing?
It was just, I had almost every single fish that I caught was on a 3/8 Dirty Jigs, the California swim jig, and Gunnersville shad with a Reaction Innovation skinny dipper trailer. I had almost every single one of my fish was on that.
Okay, so yeah, going a little bit bigger with the California swim jig.
Yeah, that's just what I always like to throw.
Oh, so you always throw the California version?
Unless I'm going 1/4 ounce, which is just because I want to go lighter, and then because they don't make a 1/4 ounce California swim jig. So
I guess you are from California. I mean, that'd be something.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah. I'm putting it together. It takes me a little bit because I always throw I love Dirty Jigs. Not sponsored or anything. That's almost all the jigs I throw, and swim jigs probably my favorite bait. I never do the California one though. I always throw the regular Coosa River version.
Really?
Yeah, but I usually don't. Like, I'll throw there's a few different trailers, but they're usually like craws or things like that. I usually, but I'll throw like a skinny dipper separate, just as on like a weighted swim bait hook, like a belly weighted swim bait hook. But I don't ever put the two together. I guess I could just merge those two techniques and then boom. Instead of two rods, I just have it on one.
Yeah, I mean, in California, I always threw my swim jigs with a swim bait trailer because I kind of got into that from fishing saltwater bass in California, like the spotted bay bass, calico, sand bass. You just throw a big hammer swim bait on like a war baits swim jig and you do that. So one day I thought, hey, why am I not throwing this in freshwater? I take it to the lake and catch like a 5-pounder on it. I'm like, okay, well, clearly it works in freshwater too. And ever since then, I've just been throwing that. Occasionally I'll throw like a craw trailer if I kind of want to keep it up in the water column, because that'll just kind of lift it, you know. But other than that, I'm like, I have so much confidence in just throwing a skinny dipper or a Kitech or even a big hammer swim bait still, anything like that on the back.
I'm so used to doing that, you know, the Alabama shake, you know, what do they call it? That's usually how I'm fishing it. I mean, I'll slow roll it, do whatever, depend on the grass or, you know, whatever's going on. But I'm usually doing this instead. Like I've heard the guys from Tactical Bass and say before, just you don't need to be doing all this. You just put a swim bait trailer on.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you're silly for doing this, but then, you know, I wear them out.
Yeah, different regional kind of ways to go about it, honestly, because Alabama, everybody in Alabama does it that way, and you go to California, nobody does it like that.
That's fine. And the Reef Robber, hey, from Oregon. All right, Reef Robber, there you go. Reef Robber, that's never seen that before. That's a curious name. There you go. All right, so now we'll go at day 2. We'll start with Nick this time. Well, I mean, we did last time too, but tell us about your day 2. Same thing?
Yeah, you know, same deal. And you know, kind of just real quick, going back to late day 1, you know, I wound up catching, on my way back to the launch, I wound up fishing some areas that I knew got thrown at a bunch that day. You know, there were other kayaks and a couple bass boats in the area. You know, back in a cut, and you know, throwing the same deal, throwing up super shallow. And about 2:30, when I was going back to the launch, I wound up getting bit like twice back to back in that area. So, you know, that kind of gave me the confidence going into day 2 that I maybe figured out something that other people weren't doing in the area. And so, you know, and really just also not really having anywhere else to go, or not really feeling good about anywhere else. You know, I kind of made the decision pretty easy that that's where I was going to go day 2. And you know, kind of the old don't leave fish to find fish. And, you know, I was just going to fish it till they stop biting. So I basically, hit the same spots on day 2. And I did fish some new water as well, where I caught a 17, I think, and a quarter, in some new water, a little bit farther up the creek where I was fishing. And, the spots produced, I mean, they weren't exactly on the same exact spots, or, you know, right in the same, you know, set up the same way that they were on day 1, but kind of going to those general areas again, using the Navionics app to help find that deeper water and you know, where that was, and throwing up super shallow. It held out. So, you know, it was a battle all day on Sunday, you know, as Bryan can say, and you know, I'm not typically a leaderboard watcher, but just kind of being in the position I was on Saturday, and I got a quick limit, I think before like 7:15 on Sunday, you know, I was pretty fired up, and I knew I had some fish to get rid of. So, you know, just kind of seeing how close it was. I lost. I fished pretty clean on Saturday. I lost 2 good fish on Sunday. I don't know if it was tired arms or what, you know, having issues setting the hook, but one definitely would have helped even with my final weight. Maybe one might have, you know, helped as well. But anyway, so kind of fast forward to the afternoon. The sun came out finally for the first time all weekend. And, you know, after 11 o'clock, I didn't have a keeper bite. So I was kind of, you know, trying to figure out what was going on. And like I said, I knew it was close. I was mostly fishing about a mile and a quarter, mile and a half from where I launched. So, you know, at about noon, I made the decision to head back to where I launched, maybe fish some of the areas around there that I hadn't, you know, essentially go farther south. But I got down there, didn't really like what I saw. Didn't really look like anything I had fished, previously and when I caught fish on. So at about 1:45, fishing ended at 3. I made the decision to paddle the 1.25 miles back up to my, my spot, my area where I'd caught them all weekend. I just kind of had a little moment with myself and was just, I knew the fish were there. It was going to be my best shot instead of trying to figure out something else. So I went back, basically just, cycled through the same spots again. And the very last one at about 250, got a bite that upgraded me by a 1/2 inch. And at that point, when the leaderboard shut off, I was down by 1/4. And, things had seemed like they slowed down. So it was an exciting moment. Obviously, at the time, I didn't know if it was the fish, but just kind of getting that upgrade and doing what I could to get it, I would have been, happy with any outcome. But yeah, to get it in the last 10 minutes was it's pretty exciting.
That's awesome. How fast did you paddle back to that other area?
Not fast at all, dude, because I had already, day 2 was my long haul day. I was all over the place. So I probably hit about 8 miles at that point on the day. So, and it was into the wind going back up to my spot. So it was a slow paddle. It was, I'm not to exaggerate, but, getting to that last spot where I caught that fish, I was exhausted. The arms were dead, just everything was tired. And, I cast it in there. So, like I said, the sun had come out underneath the bush up shallow and saw my line swimming off and set the hook. And that woke me up real quick. But yeah, the paddle back to the ramp was a slow one as well. It was a struggle, but worth it in the end.
Well, that's awesome, man. Great story. Like, some of those times, like, you feel like you should be rewarded because you put in the work to go back to that spot and I'm going to do it. And you did it. And man, that's,
it rarely works out that way, right? You get up there and you blink and that's what it is. But
why the hell did I come back up?
Yeah. But again, hats off to everyone else and Bryan. And, like I said, it was just being that close, to a win. Obviously I would have been, I came into the weekend just wanting to catch 10 fish and see what I could do. And, being in any money would have been great, especially with the field that we had, but knowing at that time how close I was and where I stood, it would have been a little bit more heartbreaking, being so close and not being able to close it out. But, it worked out this time. It hasn't plenty of other times before, as anyone who tournament fishes can tell you. But fortunate that it did.
Good deal. Well, Bryan, how about you, man? How was you had the big day too?
Yeah.
Big bag at a tournament. Had to have been a good day.
Yeah, I had a lot more fun on day 2. I'll just say that. I really enjoyed it. So starting off, I just went back to the same spots I had started at day 1. I went over there to those pads and just kept grinding. Wasn't catching anything. Kind of moved down, fished some of that dead water willow, picked up like a 14. I was like, all right, well, that's 1 in the boat. Went to another area with some more of that dead water willow, and I was able to, it was right off a point, and I was able to get a 20.5 off that. I was like, okay, well, if I can just fill out a limit, I'll be sitting pretty good with that fish. That fish is going to go a long way, and I'll be able to hopefully get a check with that. So I just keep fishing around. I talked to my buddy. He's like, oh, yeah, let's pull the 19.5 over here in the water willow too. I was like, okay, well, obviously they're in that stuff still. So I'm still fishing that, not getting any more bites. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to that spot that I fished for the last hour or half hour or whatever it was on day 1 where I caught that last minute fish. So I was like, all right, I'll go over there and check it out at least. I go over there and I see only 1 bass boat back there, but there's also 2 kayakers. I'm like, oh, great. Like, it's still crowded, and I was like, well, I can there's enough room for me to kind of move in there. I won't be able to fish all the stuff I want, but it's okay. And then I end up hooking a 19 something right off the bat real quick in there. And then somebody yells over to me, oh, does that one have any size to it? And it ended up being 2 guys I know, Jeff Malott and Garrett Morgan from Arkansas. So I was like, oh, cool. At least I know them. So, like, I can kind of not piss anybody off, by going back in there like, oh yeah, we're not in contention or anything, like, don't mind us, just fish around and whatever, don't worry about getting in our way, we're not doing anything special. So I was like, okay, I appreciate that.
Very
so I just
cool.
go in there and keep working around those pads, and I pull like another 18 something. I was like, okay, wow, this is getting stupid, kind of. Okay, and I keep fishing more, another 18. And then I was kind of moved to the other side, pull like a 17 or something. And then I think maybe a 12.75. I was like, oh, well, I have a limit. I'm good. Like, I don't remember if that's the exact order, but I know my last fish for my limit was a 12.75. And I was like, well, it's a limit. That's all I really, really wanted. Like, if I couldn't get a limit, I was going to be struggling, you know? So I had that, and I just kept grinding, and I called that 12 something with like a 16. And this was all like maybe within an hour time, you know? Wow. I just got into him real quick. And then all of that bass boater that was back there, he was just smashing them too. Like, he was in there he was fishing shallow though and catching a lot of the small fish. I was kind of more on the outside of those pads and catching the bigger fish. That seems where they set up was kind of along the outside edge of it.
So it's maybe the males up shallow.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like, because Jeff and Garrett, they're also saying the same thing. Like, oh, like there's a ton of males like up shallow. Like, we're catching those, but you know, there's not. They're all 14s, 15s, whatever. I was like, all right, well, it's good to know if I want to like upgrade upgrade that 12-incher or something. I can just kind of grind around the bank and at least pick up, you know, a 3-inch call or something like that. Yeah. But I saw that bass boat, and he, I stopped catching after like that hour flurry or so. And then I noticed the bass boat also stopped catching, and he was just smashing them like as much as I was, just not the same size, but he was almost hooked up as much as I was. I was like, okay, well, did the bite just turn off completely back here? And then we're just fishing around, and I think I had like 1 or 2 small ones, and then finally I catch a nice one. It was like a 17 something, and it called me, I think it called out like a 14 3/4. So it was a big call, and I think that's the point when I jumped ahead of Nick, and I was sitting there for maybe, I don't know, 2 hours or so, that last hour or 2 in the day, something like that. Yeah. And I was talking to the boater. He was like, oh man, it's real slow. I'm like, well, it looks like it just turned on, because he had caught one and I had also just caught one. And I was like, okay, well, this is cool. When we catch like 1 or 2 small ones each after that, and then it shut off again. I couldn't buy a bite. I switch up from my swim jig over to a fluke. I pick up like 3 15-inchers on that. I'm like, okay, this is not going to do it. This is not helping me at all. I'm just going to kind of grind out with the swim jig.
With the bigger
another hour.
Upgrade.
Yeah. I just said I'm not going to be able to, like, I'm getting bites on the fluke, you know, but it's like, it's not anything special. Like, I needed to get rid of a 16 3/4 or something. So I knew I had to throw something a little bit bigger. And I'd switched up to speed worms, to Kitex, like flashy swimmers, everything I could think of pretty much, trying to get a bite, but they just wouldn't turn on again. And I caught like 1 or 2 more on the swim jig that were 14s, 15s, you know, and it just, I couldn't get anything bigger than that. And I just kept grinding and grinding. I knew that I was only like a 1/4 inch ahead of Nick. So I knew it was still anyone's game. And I think, you know, the other guys were still only 1/2 inch or so. We're all within like an inch of each other. So it was anyone's game. Yeah, it was anyone's game until the last minute. So I was just thinking, man, I need a call. Like, if I can't get a call, I'm not going to feel comfortable at all. Like, if I called a little bit more, at least I'd feel somewhat comfortable, but I was not comfortable even slightly. I knew that Nick, he was catching good ones, so I needed to, I don't know, it was not a good time.
I was going to say, you guys had to be sweating it just with how close everything was. I can't imagine.
I don't think I've ever seen a tournament where the finish was like each step was a 1/4 down. You know, I like 175 1/4, 175, 174 3/4, 174 1/2. I don't think I've ever seen a tournament that were 1/4 inch, you know, notches down like that. That's crazy. It worked out that way. Yeah,
it was super tight. But honestly, I was still, even with, like, I wanted to win, because when I won Lake Seminole earlier this year, and I was like, okay, I want 2 wins. Like, 2 wins would be really awesome. Like, okay, I'll just keep grinding. I didn't think I even had a shot at that because I came up from 27th all the way up the leaderboard. So I cannot complain about second at all because just I didn't even think it was possible to get second. So I'm still happy with it. It's still all good. Congrats to Nick for that last minute call. That's what I've been doing lately, like last minute calls, but I wasn't able to do it on day 2.
So now that you've got the, does that kind of change what you're going to do the rest of the year? Are you now chasing AOY points? I mean, you probably should be, right?
I was chasing AOY points
After
before. After the first one, because I was thinking like, oh, I'm qualified for the TOC. I don't have to worry about anything. And people were like, well, now like you have a good shot at AOY. You have a win. And it's only the first tournament of the year. I'm like, shoot, you're right. I kind of maybe should fish a couple more events maybe. So now I'm thinking I was already going to fish like maybe one more event than I was going to previously. And now that I have a first and a second, I'm like, okay, well, if I can, like, I have a first, a second, next one can be a third. That's fine with me.
So which ones are you going to fish the rest of the year? Do you know? Probably Pickwick. That's not.
I don't know if I'll do, like, I want to, now I'm thinking, I wasn't planning on doing Pickwick before. I was going to do Rayburn and I think Lacrosse, maybe. I was thinking about it. I'm not a river guy at all. I went last year. I kind of, I don't know. It's grass fishing. I love doing that. But the river thing was kind of, I would still need a lot to learn on rivers. And now I'm kind of thinking I want to go to Champlain. It's like a 26-hour drive. But I think I would do well on that lake.
Man. Go on up there.
Yeah, it looks like an awesome lake, and I feel like I would do well there. So I kind of just want to fish at least one or two more that I feel like I'll have a good shot at. I feel like I need at least a top 10 probably to have any shot at AOY, going into the TOC. And then, like you said, maybe Pickwick. That could be a fun one. That's not all that far. I mean, probably 10 hours or something.
Well, probably. Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Something like that. 9, 10. I don't know.
Yeah, less than that.
Yeah.
Maybe 7 or 8. Not too bad.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't really look yet. So
cool. Well, we appreciate y'all being on. We don't want to take up any more of your time, but before we let everybody go, we give you a chance to shout out any sponsors. They might make fishing easier for you. Bryan, we'll start with you, man.
All right. Well, everyone knows I have to thank my wife, Taylor.
Nice.
And then my friends and family in California and Texas. And then Dobbins Rods. I caught all my fish last weekend on almost everything was on the Sierra 734. That's basically my swim jig rod. And I caught a couple on the other rods, just, not anything that contributed to the limit. And then I also have to thank Mariner Sales in Dallas because the day before I drove out to the tournament, I was able to get a couple things there, ordered it online and went and picked it up. And they've always been great to me there, and I always get my kayaks there. And if you're ever in the area, make sure you hit them up.
That's a great shop for sure. I've ordered for my kayak too. It seems like if you can't find something, Mariner Sales, they're one of them shops that have it in stock all the time. Yeah,
they have dang near everything you need for a kayak, And if they don't have it, a lot of the time they could still order it and you get it pretty quickly.
There you go. All right, Nick, how about you, man?
Yeah, same way. Thanks to my girlfriend for letting me go fish for 3 days this weekend. It was, worked out well. All my buddies who were watching had quite a crew from all over the place. Buddies from back home and some of my fishing buddies here in Missouri and a whole club down in Louisiana rooting me and my good buddy Andy Greenon who fished. He finished in the top 20. He had a good tournament as well. And then no affiliation, but New Canoe Flint, really showed out for me this weekend. 1 for 1 in it so far. First tournament with it. So, that really worked out well for me. And then just, Hobie and all the guys competing. Hats off to everyone. It was a great weekend. It was fun. Again, I can't say it enough. I feel fortunate to get this one and, excited for the future.
There you go. Well, congrats and good luck the rest of the year, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Man.
Thank y'all. We'll talk to y'all again before too long.
All right. See you.
See you, gents.
All right. Well, there we go.
Some
Two
good juice there.
Yeah, there you go. Good stuff. All right, so we had a lot of tournaments as always this time of year. It's picking up, so there was a bunch of them. First off, we have Carolina Kayak Anglers. They were on Kerr Scott Reservoir. And again, if I say your name wrong, I'm sorry. I blame Mississippi Public School Systems. My boy Nick Huddleston, 93 3/4. He killed it. Second place, Melvin Yang with 83 3/4, and James Quinn in third with 83 1/2. Buckeye Kayak Fishing Trail, they were on Raccoon Creek, 83 anglers. First place, Brock Spencer with 84 1/2. He almost lapped the field by 7 inches. Second place was Seth Rankin in second with 78, and Chris Hennigan in third with 75 1/2. Cats Kayak Anglers Tournament Series, they were on Lake Fayette. They had 67 anglers. First place was Keith Villegas, 99 1/2. So big limits out there. Yeah. Second place, Joshua Butler with 99 1/4. And then third, Brian Scarberry with 99. So that was a heck of a day of fishing there. East Texas Kayak Fishing, they were on Lake Nacogdoches, 30 anglers. Robert Harris, 94 3/4. Randall McDonald with 88 1/2, and Dwayne Taft in third with 88 1/2 as well. Next up, Georgia Kayak Fishing League. They were on Lake Chatoog, 34 anglers. Coleman Fowler won that one with 86 1/4. Dan Krispinski with 81 inches, and Patrick Loundick with 80 3/4. Then Southern West Virginia. This is the most specific name for a club ever. Southern West Virginia Kayak Anglers. I always think that's funny. It's probably not funny, but I think it's funny. They had a team tournament as well, but this is for the individual, 86 anglers. Travis Harper in first with 70 1/2. And Mark Edwards, the Goat Whisperer, he had 65 1/2. And then Jared Terry in third with 63 inches. And then Colorado Kayak Fishing Club, they had 2 different tournaments. The first one was they had a multi-species tournament, and they do this every year. We've had them on before, and I think it's so cool. It was on Pueblo. So the first 3 guys, it was 6 fish limit, I guess, 34 anglers. And so the top 3, they had 3 walleye, 2 bass, and a trout, because the fishing's so cool out there in Colorado. But Alex Rojas won it with 93 3/4. Paul Roth in second with 92 3/4, and then third place was Jason DeYoung. I think I said that right, with 87 1/2. And then on Sunday, they had a regular 5 bass tournament, 53 anglers. First place was Trev Stuckey with 69 3/4, Colin Smith in second with 66 1/2, and Brandon Maytum with 66 1/4. And then Oregon Kayak Bass Fishing, they were on Colby and Sunset Lakes way out there, West Coast, 32 anglers. Edward Arden in first with 77 3/4, William Eschman, 74 3/4, and then Kyle Dixon with 74. Yakabass, they had their Spawnapalooza. There was a few different lakes, 123 anglers. Chad Schweitzer with 89 3/4, Pua Yang with 88 1/4. Dang Zhong with 87 3/4, and then everybody's favorite, Greg Blanchard in fourth with 86 inches. ABA, they were on Lake Paris, 50 anglers. Ryan Moriarty, Sherlock Holmes' nemesis there, 91 1/4. Second place, Alex Cox, 90 3/4, and John Toscano with 86 1/2. Then Long Island Kayak Bass Fishing, they were on Forge Pond, 45 anglers. I think this was their biggest tournament ever. Seen them kind of pop up every now and then, but it seems like fishing now on Long Island's getting more and more popular. But apparently the fishing sucks because it was a 5 fish limit. The first place won Rick Scala with 53 3/4 with 4 fish. Second, it was 45 anglers. Second place was Paul Bondet with 52 inches, 4 fish. And then third place was RJ Cardinale with 30 1/2, 2 fish. So
that's third place. Wow.
45 anglers, 2 fish, 5 fish limit. So
that had to be grinding.
Yeah, that was brutal. And then last but not least, Wild West Bass Trail. They were on the Cal Delta, 92 anglers. Damian Towle, who I picked him on my fantasy, But I don't. Unfortunately, I don't think the Wild West Bass Trail qualifies in the fantasy thing. So, Drew Gregory, you got to get that together because I knew Damien. Damien is such a hammer, man. That guy wins everything. He is amazing. He's a guy that we had on. And he's throwing like a 15-foot Carolina rig, like a he's just one of the people that can catch me anywhere. But Damien Talon first with 83.5. John Myers with 80 3/4, and Robert Woodruff. I didn't write how much he won, but he got third, so he doesn't care. Yeah, that's it. It was a good show.
Sounds like some big shows, or a lot of anglers. So yeah, sounds like things are picking up.
Yeah, it's funny. Like every week you look at the different tournaments, you look at everything that's going on, and this week it seemed like it was kind of an off week. There was a lot of tournaments, but a lot of people had couldn't quite meet 30 anglers, that sort of thing, because there's so many tournaments we can't talk about all of them.
Right.
But yeah, so a lot of tournaments that were kind of had a little bit, even bigger clubs had a little bit reduced turnout this week. I'm not sure why, but yeah. So, but a lot of tournaments going on for sure. It's definitely that time of the year.
Cool.
Well, cool. Well, man, Sean, I appreciate you being on. I hate Jimmy couldn't be here. Hopefully he's doing okay, and we'll find out. So if y'all are praying, say a prayer for my boy Jimmy.
Yeah, feel better, Jimmy.
Yeah. But we'll see y'all again next week. Be safe out there and wear your PFDs. Thanks, everybody.
See you guys.
Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_and_fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_and_fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in Northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. Shout out to Jigmasters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com